I never thought my garage would turn into a war zone, but one lie from the HOA president sent armed cops crashing into my driveway, guns drawn, fingers on triggers, and before I could even process what was happening, the governor of the entire state was bleeding out on my spotless concrete floor. That's how close I came to losing everything because of Karen Polson's lies. Let me take you back. My garage was my sanctuary, my church. Every wrench had its place on the pegboard, every socket nestled in its tray, the floor clean enough to eat off except for that one stubborn puddle of oil under my '67 Mustang. That car was my pride, a Highland green beast that smelled of leather gasoline and my dad's memory. On the night it all went down, I was tightening lug nuts, click, 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 when I heard the low hum of a black sedan pull into my driveway. This wasn't a neighbor coming home late, this was government plates, men in suits, and the kind of posture that told you they'd seen too much. One agent introduced himself as Peters, the other as Cross. Then the back door opened and I nearly dropped my wrench. Governor Thompson himself stepped out. He gave me a nod, firm but tired, and the briefcase in his hand was full of documents I had handed over weeks earlier, proof that our HOA president Karen had been carving up community land and funneling kickbacks through fake invoices. I thought this was it, the turning point, the night the truth would finally beat her petty tyranny. And then the world exploded in flashing red and blue. Patrol cars screeched into my cul-de-sac headlights, blinding sirens rattling my bones. Officers poured out guns up, shouting overlapping commands. Hands in the air. Get on the ground. A sergeant's voice cut through the chaos, reading from his slate. Caller reports. Subject has bombs and rifles. Ambush scenario. High-risk response. Lethal cover if he doesn't comply. My blood ran cold. That caller was Karen. Of course it was. Last week she fined me for a garage door open past quiet hours. Tonight she escalated that to domestic terrorism. I glanced at my wife Tina standing frozen in the doorway to the house, eyes wide with terror. The governor's security detail shouted back, flashing badges, yelling for calm. But the local cops were too amped up, fingers white-knuckled around their pistols. And then it happened. A rookie officer, sweat dripping down his face, stepped forward onto my garage floor. His boot hit that slick little puddle of oil. He slipped his arms flailing and his finger clenched the trigger. The shot cracked like thunder, ricocheting off steel and concrete. The sound still echoes in my skull. I turned in horror as Governor Thompson let out a grunt, staggered back and collapsed, blood blooming across his crisp white shirt. Agent Peters caught him as he went down. And across the street, standing smug on her perfect lawn, was Karen, her phone still in her hand, watching like it was theater she had paid to see. For a second, she looked triumphant. But as the governor hit the floor, her face drained white. She hadn't just called the cops on her annoying neighbor, she had just orchestrated the shooting of the most powerful man in the state. The scene dissolved into chaos. The rookie officer was shaking, muttering, "Oh, God!" I slipped over and over while the medic barked for help, blood soaking through his gloves. I stood there paralyzed, feeling useless, drowning in guilt. This was my garage, my evidence, my fight. And now, an innocent man lay dying because of me. Because maybe I had pushed too far. Maybe I had made a mistake. For a moment, I wanted to crawl into a hole, give it all up, let them haul me off as the villain Karen had painted me to be. But then the medic's eyes locked on mine. He didn't see a man falling apart, he saw steady hands, a clean workspace, someone who could follow directions. "You get over here now." My body moved before my brain caught up. I knelt on the concrete, pressed both palms onto the governor's wound, and felt his heartbeat, faint and desperate, thudding against my hands. He whispered, "Don't let me sleep." I whispered back, "Not tonight, Governor. You still owe me a handshake." While I fought to keep him alive, Tina vanished into the house. A minute later, our big living room TV blared to life, the screen visible from the driveway where neighbors and officers stood frozen. And then her voice filled the night, the 911 operator asking, "What is your emergency?" followed by Karen's shrill, panicked lie, My neighbor, Josh Dunham. He's got rifles, bombs, he's planning an ambush. Every word, crystal clear, echoing through the cul-de-sac. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones shot up. Faces turned toward Karen, who looked like she'd been slapped in front of a jury. But Tina wasn't done. The TV flickered again now, showing the rookie's body cam. First-person chaos flashing lights shouts his boot hitting my concrete, then the sickening slip the accidental trigger pull the bullet that tore into the governor. The truth was laid bare. This wasn't an ambush. It wasn't bombs or rifles. It was one rookie set up for failure by a neighbor drunk on power. The entire narrative flipped in seconds. The officers who had stormed my driveway lowered their weapons, their faces falling as they realized they'd been used. The neighbors, even HOA loyalists, turned on Karen with open disgust. She stood rooted to her lawn, pale as a ghost, her kingdom of lies collapsing under the weight of her own voice on loudspeaker. From there, the machine of justice took over. Agents seized the scene. State police arrived, and Karen was no longer a queen but a suspect. But the fight wasn't over. Richard Thorne, the developer who'd been Karen's partner in the land fraud, even tried to snatch my briefcase later that night in a hospital garage. Desperation made him sloppy. I dropped him with one ugly punch before troopers cuffed him, and the deeper the investigators dug, the dirtier it got. Fraud, kickbacks, money laundering. Karen wasn't just a busybody with a clipboard, she was a criminal in pearls, a con artist hiding behind HOA bylaws. The final act came a week later at the emergency HOA meeting I had demanded. The clubhouse was packed, neighbors buzzing like it was Judgment Day. Karen sat at the head of the table, dressed sharp chin high, trying to bluff her way through one last speech about rumors and misinformation. And then the doors opened. 2 state troopers walked in, followed by the lead investigator, warrant in hand. "Karen Polson," he said, voice steady and clear. "You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud. Wire, fraud, money laundering, and filing a false report." The room went dead silent. Karen's mask shattered. Her mouth opened and closed, her eyes wild. The troopers cuffed her in front of everyone she had ruled over with fear and fines. As they walked her past me, she hissed through clenched teeth. "You have no idea what you've done. You've ruined everything." I looked her dead in the eye. "No, Karen, you did." And just like that, she was gone, shoved into the back of a state police car, her reign reduced to nothing more than gossip and court dates. The HOA board, crumbled neighbors finally free the stolen land on its way back to the community. That night I stood in my garage again, tools back in their place. The Mustang shining under the lights, the floor scrubbed clean of blood and lies. And I realized something people like Karen believe rules make them untouchable, but it only takes one map, one recording, one pushback to prove they're not. The lesson: bullies only win until the truth catches up.